Okay, we're going to finish up with our Unit 5 on Russia and the Republics, chapters 15 through 17. So this is our fourth page of notes. So the former president of the Russian Republic, his name was Boris Yeltsin. That's him pictured at the top right. And of course, the current president is Vladimir Putin. We just watched a video that talked about how in one of the elections he had 140% voter turnout. And after our recent elections, I think, oh, that sounds very familiar. Anyway, I think he's on his third term. I'm not quite sure how long Russian presidents are in office. Okay, this one I think is really quite interesting. So you have 3% of the farmland is in private plots, only 3%. But from that 3%, you get 1/3 or 33% of all agricultural output. And these private plots are also known as kitchen gardens. So I asked the students, how is this possible? What causes that? What can be the reason for it? And a few kids answered that correctly today as we finish these up. And the answer is that they take more care in the private plots. They're going to benefit directly, and so they take much better care of it. They're going to make sure it's watered properly, no weeds are there, it's just cultivated, everything's just done correctly. Versus if you go to maybe a collective farm or a state farm, where you might show up for work, you work your 8 hours, and then you go home, and you did your job, but have you taken the care that you would on your own personal plot? So that's the main reason why I think they're able to be so productive with these private plots. And any extra products that are produced beyond using them for their immediate family, they could take to a local market and sell those and get a little income for other things they need. So we talked about Chernozem. This, of course, is the rich black soil found in the North European plain, especially in the countries of Russia and Ukraine. You can see this dark layer here on each of those pictures, and that's the Chernozem. Really anywhere, if you have soil that's very rich in nutrients, if you get it wet, it does look very dark. I think underneath it might have a little clay, but again, very rich soil. Okay, fishing is important to the Russian diet and economy. Again, with the sheer number of rivers and lakes and streams and seas and other bodies of water, the oceans on the north and the east, fishing is a very important part of their diet and economy. Russian caviar, so that's what these two pictures are, is salted fish eggs, and it is declining. I guess the most prestigious caviar comes from sturgeon. I don't know that I've ever had it. We call it roe fish eggs. When you catch a trout or whatever and clean it, if you have a female, then there's eggs in there. So this little tin, 2 ounces. If it's the real high quality stuff, you might spend $100, $150 per ounce for caviar. Then I've got a couple of pictures here from some sturgeon. Again, they're a very huge fish. I think they're also an ancient fish that's survived into today, but pretty interesting, amazing fish there. Okay, so Moscow, the major industrial city and Russia's capital. Again, it was the capital when it was the former Soviet Union. It's the capital of Russia today. Another large city, St. Petersburg, we talked about that. Over on the west coast, right by the Baltic Sea. And it's more of I would say a modern, upbeat, more metropolitan type city, maybe a little more developed than some others. And Before Moscow, St. Petersburg was actually the capital. And of course I talk about how it's gone through some name changes. Once the Bolshevik Revolution happened and the Soviet Union was formed, it was changed to Leningrad. And then after the fall, I guess they didn't like Lenin anymore and they changed it back to St. Petersburg. Okay, Cold War, of course, a power struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union following World War II. I always ask the kids, was there any fighting? Of course there was not. There was a lot of tension, finger pointing, concern over what they're doing versus what we're doing, and contention, just maybe a tense time between the two. And I always use the example of the movie called War Games. It's quite interesting how this young boy breaks into the National Defense computers, and within a few hours, of course, the FBI comes to his house and they take him away. And anyway, so the computer's playing a game, but they're not sure if it's actually playing the game. And they've got these missile silos in the countries, and they have red dots on their screens. And at one point then, the computer launches the missiles while the other side has to compete and defend itself. So they launch theirs and they cross, and then they land. The screens go white and then dark, and then it comes back on and the computer says, would you like to play again? So again, that's kind of what things were like back then, with a lot of tension between the two nations. We did come fairly close, I guess, to actual warfare during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was 1962. This shaded area shows the extent to which those Soviet missiles maybe could have reached. My understanding is that President John F. Kennedy met with the Soviet leader, and he said, you have 10 days to get those missiles out, and if you don't, then we'll go to war. It gave him an ultimatum, and I guess after the 10 days they got them out. So that finishes our unit on Russia and the republics. Again, this was Unit 5, chapters 15 through 17. Thank you.